Hello students, welcome to Btech360. The KCET round 1 cutoffs have just been announced. And what we thought was we'll actually talk to you about the top 10 colleges, the kind of cutoff that you had last year in 2025 after end of round 1, and how do they compare with what's happening at the end of round 1 in the current year. And we'll also tell you what kind of journey, in the sense that where did it close last year by the time the entire counseling ended, so that you exactly know what is likely to happen this year after the round 1 cutoff, and by the time it actually travels the entire round 3 or 4, whatever you have, because you also have many rounds moving forward, and the government keeps changing the number of rounds depending on how many seats are still vacant. So we'll also explain to you on what happened last year by the time the entire counseling finished. So what we talk about is KCET Counselling 2026, top engineering colleges. We're picking up the top 10 colleges only at this point in time, and the round 1 closing rank analysis 25 versus 26 is what we're doing. Now, some of you would also be looking at admissions beyond this, because you know that you would at least at this point in time know where you stand, because you actually have your score and rank in your hand and what kind of colleges or branches you like to get. So if you are still looking for some kind of an admission, please do send us a message. Some of the universities, Bristol, York, Aberdeen, Illinois, Victoria, and Liverpool, they're also looking at this point in time for admission. So if you want to get into any of these foreign university campuses that are settled in India, that are set up in India, in Bangalore, in Mumbai, in Delhi, and all, or in Chennai also, send us a message on this number 8130376334, 8130376334. The message should be foreign. Remember, these are foreign university campuses being set up in India. Send us a number on this, and we'll have one of the university counselors call you up. Now, about each of these colleges, I told you we're covering 10 colleges. Let's pick up the first one, which is RV College of Engineering, which is the most in-demand college, as you will understand that. And remember, we're only talking about the closing cutoff of the open category or the general category. We're not taking rural, we're not taking anything else. We are only, or based on Kannada language, we are only taking the open category, and we're talking of cutoffs across the branches in the top 10 colleges. RV College, of course, CSE is the most competitive thing. Last year, the end of round 1 is 234 was the highest rank. This time that fell dramatically to 144. So the demand at this college grew dramatically, which is the difference of 90. And by the way, last time when it was 234, it ended with 499 by the time the last round ended. So you would know that there is some kind of a travel, and I think this time it will end with about 400 plus kind of a thing that you can think of. The next one is B, Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning, where it was 429 last time. This time is 243. Again, a drop of 186. It ended with 742. So you can expect about 500, 600 kind of an ending. B, Data Science 365 last time. This time it's 266. A drop of 100 colleges, and ended with 944. So again, you can expect about 850 kind of a closing. Then B, Cybersecurity 508 last time, 288 this time, a drop of 220 ranks. So across the board, if you now notice, RV College is so much in demand that every single branch that is there in RV College has become more competitive for you to get in at the end of round 1. I'm now comparing round 1 to round 1 only. I'm not even talking of where it ended last year. Right? And last year it ended at 990. So this year, I think 750, 800 is what you'll deal with. Then B, Electronics and Communication Engineering, 573 last time. This time it's 375, a drop of 198 ranks, ended with 1100 last time. B, Electronics and Telecommunications, 987 last year. This year 632, a drop of 355 ranks, and it ended with 1507 last year. Then B, Electronics, 1126 last year, 721 this year, a drop of 405 ranks, ended with 2783 last year. B, Aerospace Engineering, 1932 last year, this year 959, a drop of 973 ranks. Just imagine the kind of competition that we're dealing with at this point in time as far as RV is concerned. And it ended with 2069 last year. Then you have B, Mechanical, 2900 last year, 2457 this year, a drop of 443 ranks, 5812 is where it ended last year. B, Biotechnology, 3963 last year, round 1, 2783 round 1 this year, a drop of 1180 ranks. It become more competitive in that sense, and 6814 is where it ended. B, Chemical, 5906 last year, 4067 this year, ended with 11,049. So a dramatic journey that is out there for you. Then you have B, Civil Engineering, 9539 last year. This time it's 5266, drop of 4273 rank. Just imagine the kind of competition where students want to study at RV come what may, whatever branch comes in, and ended with 10,832 last year. B, Industrial Engineering and Management, 8703 last year. This time 6656, a drop of 2047 ranks. Rather, it's become more competitive, ended with 15,717 last year. Moving further, the next one, MSRIT, Ramaiah Institute of Technology. Remember this MSRIT. You also have MSRUAS, which we'll talk about later. CSE, 1100 last year. This time it's 976, a 124 rank drop that we talk of. And 2076 is where it ended last year. CSE with AI and machine learning, 1694 last year, 1250 this year, 444 ranks up, more competitive. 2791 is where it ended last year. CSE with cyber security, 1915 last year. This time 1483 became more competitive by 432 ranks. 4208 is where it ended last year. ECE, 2567 last year, 1557 this year. Difference is 1010 and ended with 4080. AI and data science, 1910 last year, 1612 this year. A difference of 298 and 4160 is where it ended. So if you notice again in this one also, everything has become that much more competitive this year as compared to last year. AI and machine learning, 1910 last year, 1650 this year, 260 is the difference that you're dealing with, ended with 3429. Information science and engineering, 2473 last year, 2104 this year, 369 is the difference, 3196 is where it ended. So essentially when you're dealing with this, you're dealing with about 2800 is where it might close the current year, going with trends. EEE, 4787 last year, 2431 the current year, 2356 where it ended last year, is a difference, and ended with 10,791. Further, Aerospace Engineering, 5172 last year, 2777 the current year, a difference of 2395, and ended with 6536 last year. Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, 3720 last year, 2861 in the current year, difference of 859 ranks, and 7708 is where it ended last year. Electronics and Instrumentation, 5254 last year, 3675 in the current year, 1579 drop, rather become more competitive, ended with 15,248. So as you keep going down the ladder, you will actually see the gap between the round one and the higher in the closing would only expand, because there are many more students that are exercising options of choosing a branch against a college or choosing only a college against a branch. Those things will also happen. Biotechnology Engineering, 9246 last year, 401. 5,236 is the growth. Ended with 12,464 last year. Mechanical, 8718 last year, 7676 in the current year, 1042 is the gap, 2751 is where it ended. Medical Electronics Engineering, 17678 last year, 8593 in the current year, 9085 is the gap, and 31013 is where it ended current year. Then you have Chemical Engineering, 13325 last year, 10110 in the current year, 3214 is the gap, 21060 is the where it ended last year. Civil, 23457, 23,457 last year, 12,460, gap of 10,994 ranks. Just imagine the kind of competition one is dealing with, and ended with 30,510 in the current year, last year. Industrial Engineering, 25,298 last year, 14,834 in the current year, a gap of 10,464 ranks, ended with 37,513. So that is MS Ramaiah. Then PES University, 100 feet ring road. So for PES, Btech360, 934 last year. In the current year, it is 628, a gap of 306 ranks, and ended with 170. Again, in this one also, if you notice, everything has become more competitive as compared to last year. In the sense, there are more people seeking these colleges out, despite whatever happens, and that seems to be a common pattern across the top colleges of Karnataka. And last year, it ended with 1,654. Btech360 with AI and machine learning, 1,494 last year, end of round 1. 917 current year, end of round 1. 523 is the rank cap, and 2694 is where it ended. Btech ECE, 2,380 last year, 1,223 in the current year, gap of 1,157 ranks, ended with 3,765 in the current year. Btech EEE, 3,645 last year, 1,550 in the current year, 2,095 rank, again massive gap, ended with 8,400 in the current year. Btech Biotechnology Engineering, 6,210 last year, 4,479 in the current year, 1,731 is the rank gap, and 13,360 is where it ended last year by the time it closed. Btech Mechanical, 5,948 last year, 4,935 in the current year, a gap of 1,013 ranks, ended with 15,958. So if you notice this, a 10,000 rank gap is what you have in terms of travel by the time it closes the entire process. Because here students are deciding whether they should go for a branch or a college, and that's where this entire thing happens. Computer Science Engineering in BMS College now, 2246 last year, 1920 in the current year, a gap of 325 ranks, ended with 3870. If you notice in CSE and all, the gap is between round 1 and round is not that much, but when you keep going down to the core engineering branches, it really opens up. CSE Data Science 2497 last year, 2084 in the current year, a gap of 430 in ranks, and 4585 is where it ended last year. See, if you notice this, you will actually see this ascending order. And that happens because as you come down to the core engineering branches, the students actually starts preferring to do a non-core in a lesser known college as compared to doing in a better known college in a core. That's what seems to be happening here. That is very, very clear for me. AI and Data Science 24442 last year, 2102 in the current year, 340 rank gap, 4646 is what you're dealing with by the time it closed. BEC 3070, we're talking about BMS College, mind you. 3070, 2204 in the current year, 866 rank gap, 4794 is where it ended. Then CSE with cybersecurity and blockchain, 2639 last year, 2255 this year, 384 rank gap, 5707 is where it ended. AI and machine learning, 2786 last year, 2388 this year, a 398 rank gap, 5087 is where it ended last year. CSE in business systems, 2868 last year, 2550 current year, 318 is a rank gap, 6293 is where it ended. EEE 5247 last year, 3248 in the current year, 1999 is a rank gap, and 10576 is where it ended last year. Biotechnology Engineering 8819 last year, 50220 in the current year, a gap of 3797, and 13931 is where it ended last year. Mechanical 8572 last year, 6844 in the current year, 1788 is a rank gap, and ended with 21879, a gap of 13,000 between the round 1 and by the time it closed. Then Visvesvaraya College of Engineering in Bangalore, Btech360 3473 last year, 2950 in the current year. Again, if you notice here, everything has become more competitive when we compare round to round. We're talking about round 1 to round 1, right? Gap of 521, it ended with 5020. Again, here also, if you notice very clearly, the rank gap is in ascending order, which means as you keep going down the core, the gap keeps widening. Btech AI and Data Science 4628 last year, 3570 in the current year, 1557 is the rank gap, 7213 is where it ended last year. Then Information Service and Engineering 4625 last year, 4015 in the current year, 610 is the rank gap, and ended with 6502. ECE 5418 last year, 4082 in the current year, gap of 1336, 9544 is the gap that has opened up. EEE 13703 last year, 9426 in the current year, 4277 is the rank gap, 22495 is where it ended. Mechanical 32642 last year, 22974 in the current year, a rank gap of 9668 between the 2 years, 49547 is where it ended. Civil Engineering 45486 last year, 37819 in the current year, a gap of 7667, ended with 55203. Sri Jayachamarajendra College of Engineering, Mysuru, Btech360 4707 last year, 3197 in the current year, a gap of 1510 ranks, ended with 6390 last year. Btech ECE 5909 last year, 3698 in the current year, 2211 is the gap, 7731 is where it ended last year. Btech EEE 13431 in the last year, 10539 is the gap is 2892, ended with 17845 in the current year, last year rather. Btech Mechanical 37934 last year, 23631 in the current year, a gap of 14303, ended with 53938 last year by the time the round counseling closed. Btech Civil 62539 last year, 40139, a gap of 22400, mind you, that's massive, and ended with 80484 in last year by the time the counseling completed. Btech Environmental Engineering 59392 last year, 54081 in the current year, 5311 is the gap, ended with 93107 in the current. Btech Industrial and Production Engineering 61678 last year, 56838 in the current year, 4840 is the difference, and 74123 is where it opened the gap. By the time it closed it, that's where it ended. Btech Polymer Science and Technology, 82,030 last year. 78,374 in the current year, a gap of 3,656 ranks. Ended with 2,56,409 by the time it finished the counseling. Dayananda College of Engineering, BCSE, 4,080 last year, 3,572 in the current year, a gap of 508 ranks, ended with 6,584. BCSE and Data Science, 4,718 last year, 3,899 in the current year, a gap of 819, and ended with 7,565 rank by the time the counseling completed. BA and Machine Learning, 4,768 last year, 4,112 in the current year, ended with gap of 656 ranks, ended with 7,846 ranks. BCSE with Cybersecurity, 5,170 last year, 4,593 in the current year, a gap of 577 ranks, ended with 9,323 from 5,170, so about 4,200 rank gap is what will happen by the time the entire rounds completed. BECE, 6,361 last year, 4,834 in the current year, gap of 1,526, ended with 10,755, which is about 4,400 gap between round 1 and end. B Robotics and AI, 7,362 last year, 5,184 in the current year, a gap of 2,178, ended with 11,734 rank gap. B Aeronautical Engineering, 8,972 last year, 6,173 in the current year, a gap of 2,799, ended with 12,812 rank gap by the time they closed. B Biotechnology, 14,639 last year, round 1, 6,832 in the round 1 current year, 7,807 is the rank gap, and 24,502 is very limited, which is about 10,000 more. The journey is such. Then Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, 12,293 last year, 8,710 this year, gap of 3,583, and ended with 20,446 rank gap. Ramaiah University of Applied Sciences, 8,400 last year, 4,155 this year, a gap of 4,245. So we talked of MSRIT earlier, now it's MSRUAS, right? And gap of, and ended with 17,900 by the time it ended. Btech Aerospace, 8,658 last year, 7,269 in the current year, a gap of 1,389, ended with 11,215 by the time it finished the counseling. Btech ECE, 9,209 last year, 8,562 in the current year, a gap of 647 ranks, ended with 60,144 by the time it finished counseling. Btech CSE, 12,530 last year, 11,100 this year, 1,430 gap, 48,520 is where it ended last year. Then Btech AI and Machine Learning, 13,119 last year, 11,276 in the current year, and 1,843 rank gap, 16,827 is where it ended last year. Btech EEE, 22,419 last year, 14,361 in the current year, gap is 8,058, ended with 1,02,000. Btech in Robotics Engineering, 17,979 last year, 14,474 in the current year, gap of 3,505 rank, 27,316 is where it ended by the time it finished the rank process. Btech Mechanical, 29,430 last year, 17,299 in the current year, gap of 12,131, ended with 1,42,386. Btech Automotive Engineering, 38,653 last year, 21,171 in the current year, 17,482 is the rank gap, 94,698 is where it ended. And Btech Civil, 50,645 last year, 33,123 in the current year, a gap of 17,522, ended with 2,29,800 rank also getting in. Then Bangalore Institute of Technology, Bangalore, 5,036 for CSC last year, 4,567 in the current year, again a gap of 469, ended with 8,157. BCSE Data Science, 6,051 last year, 4,839 in the current year, a gap of 1,212, ended with 10,993 by the time it finished counseling. AI and Machine Learning, 6,577 last year, 5,213 in the current year, gap of 1,364, ended with 9,607 by the time it finished counseling last year. BCSE with IoT and Cybersecurity and Blockchain, 7,481 last year, 5,458 in the current year, a gap of 2,023, and ended with 12,460 by the time it finished counseling. BECE, 7,585 last year, 5,628 in the current year, a gap of 1,957 ranks, 13,549 is where it ended by the time it finished counseling. B Robotics and AI, 9,015 last year, 6,191 in the current year, a gap of 2,824, ended with 15,039 by the time it finished counseling. Again, Bangalore Institute of Technology. B Information Science and Engineering, 7,581 last year, 6,241 in the current year, a gap of 1,336, ended with 12,266. So again, if you see, about 5,000 rank gap. B, electronics engineering, VLSI design and technology, 10,833 last year, 7,522 in the current year, a gap of 3,311, ended with 19,177 rank by the time it finished counseling. B, electronics and telecommunication engineering, 14,429 last year, 10,406 in the current year, a gap of 4,023 ranks, ended with 24,762, which is a 10,000 rank gap by the time it finished the journey. B, triple E, 14,851 last year, 11,793 in the current year, a gap of 3,058, more competitive, ended with 30,331 by the time it finished counseling, which is a 15,000 rank gap. B, electronics and instrumentation engineering, 18,957 last year, 13,166 in the current year, 5,791 is the rank gap, 37,131 is where it ended last year. B, mechanical engineering, 35,862 last year, 27,757 in the current year, 8,105 is the rank gap, ended with 67,835. B, civil, 63,170 last year, 51,349 in the current year, a gap of 11,820, ended with 1,17,401 by the time it finished counseling. B, CSE, 7,683 last year, 6,526 in the current year, a gap of 1,157, ended with 9,809. B, CSE, AI and machine learning, 8,638 last year, 5,920 in the current year, 2,718 is a rank gap, 9,562 is where it ended. B, information science and engineering, 9,449 last year, 8,705 in the current year, 744 is a rank gap, 12,432 is where it ended. B, electronics and communication engineering, 10,794 last year, 9,208 in the current year, a gap of 1,586, ended with 14,310 by the time it finished. B, electrical and electronics engineering, 15,713 last year, 14,546 in the current year, a gap of 1,167, ended with 24,741. Again, Siddaganga continued. B, electronics and instrumentation, 22,282 last year, 23,329 current year, gap of 1,047, ended with 35,003. B, biotechnology, 27,392 last year, 14,316 in the current year, a gap of 13,023, ended with 47,009. B, chemical, 37,235 last year, 30,535 in the current year, gap of 6,700, ended with 66,909. B, industrial engineering and management, 42,382 last year, 42,892 in the current year, a gap of 510, ended with 70,630. B, mechanicals, 47,181 last year, 45,906 in the current year, gap of 1,275, ended with 79,022. B, civil, 61,825 last year, 57,549 in the current year, a gap of 4,276, ended with 96,620 by the time it finished counseling. So that is what you have for the top 10 colleges across all the branches compared with the 2025 round 1 cutoff versus 26 round 1 cutoff. And I also showed you where did it end by the time the entire counseling ended as far as these branches are concerned. What happens is when you deal with the non-core engineering branches, the gap is lesser, but between round 1 and the time the counseling closes, the gap gets bigger and bigger as you come down to the core engineering branches and as you come down to the colleges also. So at a top college, the gap would be lesser, but as you come down to the next level of college, the gap only widens and widens and widens. That you've seen that. If you want to, besides that, there are also options: Bristol, York, Aberdeen, Illinois, Victoria, and Liverpool. These are all foreign university campuses that are setting up campus in India. So if you want to get into any of these campuses where there are scholarships and the colleges are in the top 500 in the world, you can send us a message on 8130-376334. Send us a message foreign. One of the counselors from these universities will call you up and they'll speak to you to understand what you need and whether you are a right fit. Do subscribe to Btech360. What we're doing is creating a lot of content around KCET so that you can take your best decision possible. So if you want to keep receiving this information, do subscribe to Btech360. If you want me to cover anything else, please, message me in the message box. I'll be happy to help you out. Thank you so much. Namaste.